What up, podheads? It's the world's most influential podcast, The Pod People, coming at you live. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this video. I'm Matisse Van Rossum, and the homeless can't stop me.
Hey, I'm Ben of Ben's World 94. Follow for follow. Please follow me. I want the follows.
And I'm Cleveland Mosier, and someone smashed my like button. Please stop doing that. I don't like it. I didn't ask for this.
If you click it real nice and slow, it's even better.
Oh no, I don't want that at all. I don't want anyone to smash my yes. Yes, clicking softer is better. You're right. I'm with you now.
Well, we're coming at you with a hot new viral episode. This I can't even take on this affectation seriously. We're talking about Ben's pick this week. We're talking about a brand new 2020 horror comedy, I think.
Oh, definitely.
Called Spree, directed by Eugene Kotlyarenko and starring Joe Keery, Sashir Zamata, David Arquette, and Kyle Mooney. And it's satire, I think.
I would say it's a postmodern American Psycho for the internet age.
Yeah, that's a pretty apt description.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot, yeah.
Well, Ben, this was your choice, so why don't you tell us a little bit about it, why you picked it, and what this movie is?
Yeah, so I picked this because I saw this a month or two ago, and I loved it. I thought it was just fantastic. It's very inventive. I would almost say it's a found footage movie in a lot of ways. I think it's just brilliant in the details as well, but essentially it's about a very social outcasty person.
A wannabe influencer.
Yes, named Kurt Kunkel. AKA Kurt's World 96. He struggles to get people to engage with this content, so he decides to create The Lesson, which is
hashtag
The Lesson, yes. Yeah, The Lesson is essentially him driving for an Uber knockoff called Spree and picking people up and killing them.
Trying to go viral through murder. As you said, he has struggled to become a viral video influencer for years. I think at the beginning it says that he's posted in obscurity for 10 years, struggling to get even double-digit views on his videos. So he decides to try to go viral by picking up people and killing them. But despite how simple that premise is, it goes in a lot of places that I didn't quite expect. I was personally expecting it to just be a fun kind of hack and slash found footage movie, but I think the way you described it earlier as kind of like a postmodern American Psycho, in that it's like an examination of this particular kind of sociopathic mindset that comes from trying to become internet famous.
Right, and I'm still really just like nodding my head to the American Psycho comparison. That's great. I really agree with it. Because like much like American Psycho, like this character is like a product of like the world that they were created in American Psycho. Like it's very much so like the culture that creates the sociopath. Their horrible personality is what allows them to succeed, and much like that we have like the influencer, and I think that's really cool. Like it's so true. Very similar.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason it really works here is the director Eugene, whatever his last name is, I'm not going to even try to pronounce it.
Oh yeah,
Kotlyarenko.
Yes. He also wrote it, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
right?
him and someone called Gene McHugh.
But it's obvious that he has a very good understanding of the internet and the internet, how it really is. It feels really authentic in that respect. And even down to the details.
Like the comments, like on like the Twitch chat, like it feeding off in real time,
especially in the details.
All the little comments are just lovely.
Because as we mentioned, this is very much a found footage movie, but not in a traditional like shaky cam. I have a camcorder. We see his phone being used. We see YouTube videos. It's very collage in that respect.
It hops from like other influencers as well, and it's cool because like you see their different styles and how they use it. Like we even have our protagonist, our antagonist, like commenting on it at times as well. The way it hops from each influencer is cool, especially since like you can see like how more active the Twitch chat is compared to the others. Like, and it's all very believable too. Like you get like the all caps like repeat posts and stuff. Like it feels like very genuine.
Yeah, at one point when he does start to go viral later in the movie and crashes his car, somebody said I turned Kurt into a Pepe because he survived the crash and posted Pepe. I would actually draw a lot of parallels between this and another film we talked about recently, which is Host.
Yes.
Which uses the medium in very interesting and creative ways that sort of take its simple premise and set it a step above. That comparison is very apt. Tonally, very, very different films. This is definitely a satire. It's very funny.
And I think this movie, to its credit, even uses the aspect of why this is all being filmed way better. Because, you know, the downfall of Host is like, why are they still on the call?
At times it's like, turn off your fucking camera.
Where with this, there's a clear reason, and that's Kurt is trying to farm engagement.
The writing is a lot more depthy here. I definitely think. Now Spree was shot pre-quarantine. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is worth mentioning too. Like while they are very similar in that they use the medium, beyond that, Host did have a lot more limitations. At hand, and they were doing like a haunted house sort of thing. As I think I used that word a lot in that episode. And so like we can allow it. You know, we can allow ourselves to just stay on the rails and not worry about the plot. But here the plot is well crafted, well written.
Yeah.
Each character is lovely and has a very believable backstory. Like even just like the random Uber driver who picks up Kurt later on, he strikes you as like a very believable, like you know, your average Uber driver. You know, in passing, like his car like has a couple like pieces of memorabilia in it that are very personally his. And it's so nice. It's so nice to get that. The attention to detail, not only just in the formatting, but also in like the character writing as well, because this film is so organic in its narrative that it's so nice to still have these characters to latch on to. I mean, it's for as like unique and weird and drawing as it is, that can only last so long. You get tired of it after a while. Like you would get tired of it after a while if you didn't have those compelling characters like keeping you glued to your seats. Because that's what definitely had me. Like when the film first started, I was a little unsure of how long I could, you know, I could ride this out.
How can you make this premise interesting for 90 minutes?
Yes.
And I think the way that they do that, one of the big ways that they do that is the theme of like the kind of, I guess I'll call it the sickness of like wanting to be internet famous extends beyond just Kurt, which I wasn't expecting, but what kind of drives the plot forward is that like pretty much everybody he comes into contact with, except for that other Uber driver later, is the same kind of personality, where they're constantly like live streaming themselves on Instagram. A lot of them are more internet famous than he is, which sort of drives him to greater lengths. And, you know, while he's killing people, he's also sort of like pandering for like, oh, if you boost me, I'll boost you, you know, you follow me, I always follow back. And it's like, well, for people who have a real following, like just some loser with like 20 people who follow him is not like that's not like a mutually beneficial thing.
And for as much as I love like the handsome Jack, tall, dark, and handsome killer, I also really love a pathetic like serial killer, like a murderer who you don't expect to have it in them. Kurt is such a great example of that.
Yeah, well, he's played by Steve from Stranger Things.
That's right.
people who are fans of Stranger Things will probably enjoy seeing him. He's great here, but yeah, rather than playing like the pretty boy jock that he does in Stranger Things, he is a pathetic, unlikable.
Yeah, I mean,
Joe Keery.
it seems obvious that that character is kind of inspired by like Elliot Rodger, which thankfully they don't get too close to that source material with him being like misogynistic, particularly.
Yeah.
He is certainly creepy.
Yes.
But
And
I
for
think
sure insane.
yes, and I think that the reason he works as a character so well is when he starts the lesson or the spree killing. The first person he picks up is like a white nationalist leader,
Yes.
and you know,
Which is a great choice.
yeah. It's slowly revealed that he's a white supremacist
he's a Chud, yeah.
in the conversation. So when you see him die, you're kind of rooting
Yeah,
for Kurt.
you know what it reminded me of is the opener to House of Jack built.
A little bit.
Because
yeah.
like they start you out rooting for the serial killer. They start you out feeling like, oh yeah, well at least he's killing people who deserve to die, so I can still feel comfortable laughing. And then it slowly turns to nervous laughter.
Well, I would honestly say that for most of it, it does ride pretty well on the people that he kills being like equally insufferable.
Yeah, well, this is like unlike House of Jack built. Like this does stay a black comedy. Like
Yeah.
this does stay like a very comedically dark film the
Yeah.
whole time. Whereas House of Jack built, like very early on, it does become just a horror film.
Because everybody he picks up in this movie is an insufferable LA yuppie trying to, you know,
They all need to die.
yeah, trying to farm engagement, thinking that like everybody.
Maybe I shouldn't say that on a podcast.
Fuck it! It's
I don't know.
It's a horror. It's a horror movie.
The characters all need to die. There we go.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Context.
yeah, you are kind of rooting for him, you know, like he's not doing a great job, like farming engagement, but every new person who gets into his car, it's like, oh my god, this person fucking sucks. These people are terrible. So it's like when he starts coming up with like crazier and crazier ways to kill them to try to like boost his numbers, you're kind of like, yeah, go for it, man. Hell yeah, brother.
Which puts you in the seat of the Twitch chat.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too because in a lot of ways he's egged on by a Zoomer kid who he used to babysit called Bobby.
Yeah, Bobby Basecamp.
yeah. I
love this.
Who has, even though he used to babysit him, is a wildly more successful influencer than he is.
Yeah, like when Kurt started doing like influencer stuff, he was babysitting this kid, and now this kid has way more followers than him. Hilarious.
Yeah, and his content is all like prank invasion shit.
Yeah, like
they
scum of the earth.
Yeah, they show a segment he did called Homeless Hero.
Which is like a thing that like some shitty YouTubers do. Like I forget their names, but
Yeah, it's
I've seen.
like Ben said, it's like a prank invasion, Joey Salads.
Yeah, those fuckers.
Kind of dude is like, yeah, I love that one too, because it's like, he starts the video as like, usually I'm out here pranking the homeless, but this time I'm trying something different.
Amazing.
And I mean, of course, that turns out to be fake as well, where he gives a homeless man $100 and the guy goes and buys food for all of his homeless friends.
Food
And
from
it's
the
like,
liquor store.
Food from the liquor store. And then
The
he's just like-
delivery too, like the narration from Bobby Basecamp is just like the perfect level of flat.
Yeah.
To like disingenuine.
I
It's
absolutely love the end of that video where he just pops up from under the
behind the
table
picnic table. Yeah.
like a swag pose. Oh
It
god,
is-
incredible.
he's just wonderfully insufferable.
Yeah, like the scum of the earth.
Yeah, but it's very tangible. It's a very real person.
Oh yeah, I mean,
you
look at
know?
Logan
I mean,
Paul.
that's-
Like absolutely,
that's the
like
thing,
real
like-
shitty people.
All of these people are like real people.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. I don't know, maybe we're alienating anybody who lives in LA who listens to this, but these are all like the most obnoxious LA ass folks,
I mean,
you know.
going on a limb, don't live in LA, but that's not advice. I'm saying I don't live in LA, but
It's advice too.
yeah, I suppose. But like I would assume that like most people around like Logan Paul, I would assume hate him as well. Like I think that's universal.
I think that's kind of the thing is like none of these people actually care about each other. They're just trying to get close to each other for the clout, right? Like that's the thing. It's all about how can I use this person to make me more famous? How can I enter this person's sphere of influence and like grow my own from that?
Yeah.
And so much of the that's what I love about this movie, because it's like he keeps getting people in his car who are more famous than him. Notably a comedian, Jessie Adams, who I thought was just kind of like a one-off, but she actually comes back later and becomes like a really integral part of the movie.
Once again, really great organic storytelling.
Yeah. Because she's like one of the ones who like gets away, who he picks up early because they're doing like a social spree, so picking up multiple people, and the other guy who he's picked up is just like this absolute obnoxious like alpha bro.
Yeah, like Boston frat bro.
Yeah, the only way to fix this is to go get some pussy. Like, I'm trying to fuck this girl, bro. So
worst.
terrible. Who he, just runs over when he gets
So
out of the car.
good. Yeah, no, I remember too, like when he has the car out in front of him, like, and he's dragged him out. Like, I remember, like, I just heard myself chanting, "Do it!" Like, run him over.
Well, the thing I love about it too is the setup. Kurt has poisoned all these water bottles in his car to like lure people to drink the water and then die.
Right. And then hide their bodies.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to get caught right away. He wants to rack up a body count first.
Yeah. But Jesse ended up leaving early from the spree because this guy was such a frat bro. And she throws the water in his face.
Yeah.
And that makes him get really nauseous. And that's kind of the turning point for him. And I just think that's so brilliant. They really make a lot of mileage out of every little detail in this movie. And I love it so much. Like the water bottles get so much screen time in different ways.
Yeah.
Each character interacts with them in their own way.
Well, it's almost Hitchcock-esque, which is weird to say, considering like how modern this film is. But it's that same idea, like in Dial M for Murder, where you're just like you're watching the key the whole time. Like you're constantly looking back at the water bottles and like waiting to see like how people are gonna like fiddle with them. And the editing like is ace at like keying you back in. The best, I think, moment for me in terms of the editing is DJ Uno.
Yes.
In front of the taco truck. Like, I think that's the highlight of the film. Definitely my biggest laugh, but we can lead into that.
It's such a comedy of errors is the thing. Like it's very much a one night mania type of film, I guess you would call it. Like it's very much a subgenre of films like After Hours and plenty of other different movies that all happen on one crazy night. This movie really just snowballs up and escalates bigger and bigger.
And it builds a really nice house of cards to knock over, too, because it is true. Like, I brought up the DJ Uno thing, and I thought about it, and I was like, oh, wait, that situation's pretty complex. Like the build-up to it does involve a lot of cards.
There's a lot of pieces that need to be put into place to get to that point, and the way that they all kind of have their own payoff. In a lot of ways, this movie is like Chekhov's gun, the movie, where there's just, like, so many little things that are introduced that you forget about, and then it's like, oh shit, they're all reintroduced to set up these like really elaborate, like kind of hilarious situations.
It's just really sharp
comedy.
writing. Yeah.
This is good stuff.
Yeah, well, the DJ Uno sequence is one of the best. So let's talk about the pieces that lead into that. David Arquette plays Kurt's dad.
Yeah, that's the best place to start.
Who is a like quote unquote DJ, also wants to be famous and successful. And after like trying to get Kurt's attention all day and Kurt is just ignoring him, he's like, come with me to this club where I'm DJing. Like I'm, this chick DJ Uno is there and she'll shout you out. And all of the people who are watching Kurt's stream are like, oh shit, DJ Uno, she's big. Yeah, go.
Well, one
I do
part
want to
we
talk
should
about
do
his
building
dad
up.
some more real quick before we build in, and then we can get your point.
Yeah.
Sorry, because the psychology of Kurt I think really strongly involves his parents, and I think it was well thought out in that respect, even deeper. Like, he's a child of a divorce, and very specifically of like a deadbeat dad who is like a shitty DJ and
Heroin
heroin addict, and is trying for the same type of game. Right? Like the DJ thing, the influencer thing, like he's pushing for fame and has failed.
Yeah.
And he can't get it. And so Kurt,
but like trying to gain fame through being a DJ is sort of like more emblematic of his generation.
Exactly.
So it's like, yeah, you can kind of like the apple doesn't fall so far from the tree. Like you can see where Kurt has gotten this kind of mania from like watching his dad.
And also like where the anger from it comes from is because every time he fails, he sees his dad.
Yeah.
Right? Like he sees his dad in that and he doesn't want to be like him. That's actually pretty fucking sad if you think about it. It's pretty fucking depressing. Like he doesn't want to be like his father. Like, and he doesn't want to be a failure in the same way.
And he talks
Which is
about,
why he doesn't want to have anything to do with him.
He talks about how his mom is a star fucker. He uses that term so that like the reason they divorced is also because his dad wasn't able to be famous enough.
Yeah.
Like she got with him because she thought he was going to be somebody and then he wasn't.
Which is why he associates likes with genuine affection and love.
Yep.
Awesome. Like
clever.
Yeah.
And even in the little details at the beginning, like they mention him watching 9/11 footage over and over again.
Yes.
And there's, my life drawing video. And that's kind of a throwaway joke at first, but then you think about like that in relation to the lesson and kind of realize, oh, maybe the lesson comes from like him viewing these traumatic experiences over and over.
I mean, the sensationalism of like death and tragedy.
Yeah,
absolutely. But yeah, as you mentioned, Ben, before he gets the call from his dad about DJ Uno, he has just gone to Bobby Basecamp's house and killed him because Bobby Basecamp has kind of been like roasting him about how like lame and pathetic he is. He's even like, he's the only one in the chat on Kurt's videos for like the first few hours is like killing people as stale content.
Yeah. Well, I love the scene where he goes to Bobby's house. This is after they introduce Jesse, and they kind of split screen him driving to the house with Jesse and her grandma, and her getting ready for the comedy show she's doing. And when Kurt pulls up to the house and stops, the way it's edited makes it seem like he's at her house at first.
Well, and he goes and knocks on the door, and we hear the knock on her side, and then she goes downstairs, and the doors open at the same time on each feed, and we see on Kurt's feed that it's actually Bobby Basecamp's house, and when Jesse opens the door, it's Kyle Mooney.
Yeah, it's such a great way to build tension, though.
Yeah.
Because, at that point, Kurt had killed a few people, so there's legitimate tension that he's going for revenge after not being able to get her the first time.
Right.
And I think it's just really well done. And the turn with Bobby, when he confronts Bobby, is just fantastic.
Yeah. Well, Bobby, of course, has his camera strapped to him and turns it on and starts streaming him like, essentially belittling Kurt and being like, this is my fucking punk ass babysitter who thinks he's, gonna be famous like me. And so then we've got like the split screen there with Kurt killing him and essentially hijacking his stream. And that's when he goes from like low double digits up to triple digits and then quadruple digits and then quintuple digits as it progresses, and where like the Twitch chat aspect really
starts pops off. Like
the consistency of that is a really excellent detail, I think, because really when you think about it, like it's a lot of screen time to keep posting shit through like and stuff that a lot of people are not even gonna read. I'm sure that there was a lot of effort put into just like maintaining the Twitch chat like in editing.
Yeah, and they all feel like authentic comments.
Yeah.
They don't feel like a boomer trying to write internet speak.
Right.
They feel very authentic.
No, someone definitely did their homework. Like,
I think
like
that-
having to do like QA and stuff like on X2. Like I had to like sit in on a bunch of streamers and stuff and listen to that, key into like all the chat stuff or whatever. And I was just like, it's very similar.
works.
Well, the
Like,
filmmaker is also somebody who grew up in the internet age, you know, somebody who's about our age, probably a little bit older, who like understands this because they grew up with it. It definitely avoids that problem that you so often see in horror movies where it's obviously old people writing for young people.
Yeah.
Slender Man.
Yes, Slender Man. Very much so. That all is done really well. Kurt hijacks Bobby's stream, goes to pick up his dad. They have a whole fight in the car. Importantly, Kurt takes Bobby's gun that he has and hides it in the glove box. And when they get to the club, he realizes that it's not like a dance club, it's a strip club.
A really sad strip club, too.
Like nobody's there. Kurt's dad is just like a strip club DJ, and he gets totally blown off by DJ Uno, who just like recognizes him for the fame hungry nobody that he is. It completely writes him off. But then when he's getting back in the car, she gets in the car and asks him to take her to a taco truck. Just like she just tells him just like famous LA taco truck. And
well, what's cool, like it goes unsaid, but she's still using the shout out as bait for
Yes.
him. Like
Yeah.
she's like,
"Oh, yeah,
she's dangling it over his head.
she's like, "Oh yeah, you take me to the taco truck and I'll give you the shout out. I'll tag you." But it's obvious too that she's only going to that taco truck for the clout as well, because she gets there, they take a bunch of pictures of her in front of it.
Yeah, she needs someone to snap photos.
And she gets back in the car and he's like, "Oh, don't you want food?" She's like, "Yeah, but I don't want to wait in line. You get it." He's like, "Well, what do you want?" She's like, "Whatever's most famous. Get me the most famous." But yes, so all of these pieces are being set up. It does the split screen again, and Kurt is in line and like harassing some girl in line who kind of perks up when she hears that he's an influencer and like maybe is like trying to get a little famous, and then he just starts being a total creep, and she like she just like leaves. Meanwhile, DJ Uno is in the car and she finds his gun and she starts taking a bunch of selfies with his gun.
So good. This is just primo editing. Such a good cut back, with her with the gun, kind of like taking the photos, goofing around.
I thought she was gonna accidentally like shoot herself or something. I thought that's what the setup was
easy.
gonna be.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been too easy. The actual payoff is so much funnier because she drinks one of his poison bottles of water and starts coughing and then just like goes limp. So it's like, okay, shit. Well, now he's got this dead body in the front seat of his car, and he goes back to the car, and right at that moment, like cops pull up and they see like his crazy lights in his car, and they come over and start trying to see what's going on.
I love that we get like their body
cams too,
like, as well, and so you get like the costumes.
The cutting
what is this
between all
fucker
of these
doing?
different perspectives is really, really good.
It's clean.
But they start trying to give him a sobriety test, and he actually is sober. But when all of a sudden DJ Uno wakes up and
in her poisoned confusion
and is still holding the gun and just shoots one of the cops through the windshield
in the head, just fucking like
just murks him and gets out of the car and just starts running away. And just like all of the pieces that went together to build up to that truly unexpected moment is just chef's kiss. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Exquisite. Like her taking off, so the other cop has to go after him, just leaving like the murderer there and free. Incredible. Like just amazing. It's that same moment once again, like in American Psycho, where it's like Did anyone get him for it? No, there's no catharsis. Like,
Well, a police chase does ensue after that, but he gets away from them pretty easily by like going through Skid Row and like driving through a bunch of homeless people's tents and stuff.
He makes a really funny offhand comment about how the homeless people don't even have a social media following or something like that.
because that's how he gauges them, like as being valuable citizens.
Yeah.
Like, God, yeah,
He's
what
like,
a nightmare human.
Nobody even knows they exist. I could just run them over and nobody would even care. And it's like, yeah, he really thinks of everything as like how internet famous, they are.
That's how he values everything. Yeah.
But then he has the great moment where he's like, nobody can stop me. The cops can't stop me. My mom can't stop me. My dad can't stop me. The homeless can't stop me. I'm feeling invincible, and immediately flips the car. Just immediately. And that's when you get the great moment where somebody's like, Kurt survived, so I made him a Pepe.
Yeah, because after that, we don't know what happens particularly right away because it cuts right to Jesse's comedy.
Yeah.
Her stand-up performance.
Yep. Well, it cuts actually to Kyle Mooney giving the lead-in stand-up routine and just bombing hard.
Completely bombing.
What perfect casting for Kyle Mooney, speaking of which, as the awkward weirdo.
Yeah, it is really good casting because like he's generally quite funny in reality, and to watch him do like a quote-unquote like bad set where he bombs is really funny.
No, I was giggling during his whole set, like just because like it's so like perfectly bad.
It's like, what's the deal with people who leave comments on porn? Like, I jerk off a lot, but I don't have an account. And just like
crickets.
A couple of people like,
which I don't know if there's something wrong with me, but I think that's funnier than an actual good joke. Like,
oh yeah, well I mean,
in
this context, especially like seeing how like bad at being an influencer Kurt is, to also see somebody who is also not funny and kind of pathetic, but trying to,
but still in the scene.
And you get the impression that he's in the scene because he's been able to successfully ride the coattails of people like Jesse, who are like actually funny. And then what I found really unexpected is that Jesse gives a rather heartfelt kind of, not even really like a set, but like a speech, about how she was in Kurt's spree and how kind of pathetic he was, but how she saw herself in him and how she used to do those kinds of things before she was famous. And then it made a realization that like, holy shit, everybody's just out here chasing clout and it's sad and gross and disgusting and we should all kind of be ashamed of it. And she ends by like smashing her phone on stage and, mic dropping and walking out of there. And the way that they keep it from being too sincere, which I think would be a little bit cringy, is by immediately having Kyle Mooney follow her, like streaming on Instagram, is like, oh shit, Jesse Adams is off social media and I got the scoop, and just like following her around and just seeing like all of the emojis and stuff like popping up on his feed.
The way it's
they never just leave it, with the gag, and that's where it excels. It's like they always give it that one extra layer or two, and bless him.
I think it's great that they split screen with Kurt as well, watching it in the crowd.
Yes, we see that he's in the audience.
And it looks like he has a realization too. Like he really sees it.
Well, yeah, he's got the gun, and as she's kind of like gearing up into her thing and kind of like dunking on him, we see from his perspective, like he's holding up the gun in the corner, like he's about to shoot her on stage. And then when she makes the comparison to herself and to like how kind of diseased the whole mentality is, that he lowers the gun and he gets up and runs out, and it's like, oh man, maybe Kurt's had a realization. Nope.
No.
Nope. It just kind of makes him snap even more. And he gets in a different ride share.
They get a capture of his phone screen, and he's looking at Twitter and sees the CEO of Spree tweeted that they had closed all of Spree for LA County because of the killings.
Because of the rideshare killer.
And so obviously he just uses the competitor's service, GoGo.
Yep. We don't actually see him kill the driver.
He kills the driver, though.
He does. But what is great about that moment is that driver has a camera, a dashboard camera, and Kurt has been telling everybody that he picks up that all the cameras are like for his safety. Like,
yeah, which is not uncommon from what I understand.
Right, for sure. But that driver, his camera actually is for his safety. He's like, oh, I see you got a dash cam. Is like, yeah, you never know. Like, you can't be too careful. And then like Kurt reaches into like his fanny pack and pulls out one of his dash cams that he's been carrying on. He's like, I've got one too. And the driver's like, yeah, like, just so you know, I'm not that crazy guy who's out driving around killing people. And Kurt's just in the back seat. He's like, I know. and I think that leaving it there is really nice, because then when Jessie gets into the car that Kyle Mooney ordered for her, we see that Kurt's driving that guy's car.
Yeah, there's a slight sense of surprise to it.
Yeah, I like, too, that we don't see him kill that other driver, because I think that driver is one of the only like purely innocent characters in the movie, or sympathetic, like truly just like a normal working class dude who's not trying to be internet famous. So the fact that we don't see Kurt kill him, I think is the right level of tasteful.
Oh yeah, and well, also like the film starts out with a hidden body count. So it's good to carry that theme on that.
Right.
Like we actually don't know if he got more people, like how many he's killed, and leaving like some of them like ambiguous is a nice touch for that, because I mean, hey, he's on a killing spree after all.
Yeah, well, then he picks up Jessie, and she has the realization that it's the same guy, and he's just like totally snapped at this point.
His speech about her routine making him realize that love is the most important thing.
Right, he's all about love now, but as we understand from like the way he was raised and just see the way he behaves, his concept of love is very different, and what he means by love in this case is that he wants to like make them a power couple, so like he can become famous off of her, instead of trying to do his own thing. So he kidnaps her, and then she tries to garrote him with the phone charger,
which was great.
I thought she was gonna get him. I really did.
Yeah, you were really cheering for her there, which is great.
And then he sort of incapacitates her and like takes her out to a field and does this poll for all of the like 50,000 people who are now watching him. He's like, well, what should I do with her? Fuck, marry, kill. And I mean, another thing we haven't really mentioned about like the Twitch chat is that did feel like realistic as well, even though it was like satire, is how sociopathic all of those people are as well, who are like watching him murder people and are kind of like cheering him on because it's a WTF moment.
Well,
and that's exactly what I mean.
Their own sort of justification in that they think it's staged. There's a lot of comments that say it's fake.
Yeah, there's
or
denial,
staged.
and that I think is like Exhibit A for like him being born out of a culture, much like American Psycho. Like that is
Absolutely.
like Exhibit A for the culture. That is unhealthy.
Well, it's like, you have that degree of separation of like watching it from behind a screen and like getting a sort of vicarious endorphin rush, but not being directly tied to it. It fuels the violence. It fuels that illness. And to see that of the 50,000 people watching him, like nobody calls the cops and is like, this is fucked up. It's like all of these people whose streams he's hijacked are just like, oh man, this is crazy. Yeah, I want to see the show, you know? It doesn't seem that far outside the realm of possibility, just like we were talking about, like the spectacle of tragedy, like watching 9/11 and seeing people jump out of the windows of the towers as they're falling and stuff, and like getting a kind of high from that. It's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hideous stuff.
And I think it's so sharp in its writing, trying to portray those ideas, because it never really gets too preachy with it.
No.
It's very satire through and through,
Yeah.
but it's really sharp satire in that I think they have such a good understanding of the internet that they understand the nuances of a lot of the mediums that are used.
It's got a very poignant message without being like self-righteous or holier than thou. Like it's something that's worth investigating and exploring, but also you can laugh at it. And I mean, I think that the way that it avoids being too preachy is really exemplified in the way the film ends. Jesse kind of gets control of the car and crashes it through the wall of Kurt's house. And David Arquette is there shooting up because Kurt told him earlier that like you left some of your stash at the house and you were so high you never realized it. So it's funny that he goes back
to the house
to get it
all
later.
it's on his mind. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, Kurt shoots David Arquette and
Finds the dead mom too.
finds the
Did
dead
she drink
mom.
the water?
No, they at
No, he
the very
murdered her at
beginning
the
of the
beginning.
movie, they have him run back into the house and run back to the car.
Yeah, before he
And
starts his spree.
It's a very
Oh.
minor thing, but they cut back
Oh
to it
yeah,
to
that
show
moment.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's when. Oh.
Yeah,
it's
so
very
he
clever.
started his spree out by killing his mom. But then Jesse drives the car into Kurt and pins him against the wall and then gets out and bashes his face in with his phone while it's still streaming.
So
which is,
poetic.
like, of course,
Just
yeah.
amazing.
And then she looks at the chat, and the chat's like, get a selfie with him, get a selfie with him, YOLO. And you think she's about to just like toss the phone and walk away, but then she kind of shrugs and like lifts up Kurt's like bloody and brutalized face and gets a selfie. And then it cuts to news articles and clips and videos from all these different sites. It's like she got even more famous from being the one who killed the rideshare killer, and that she's fully back on social media, fully chasing clout again. Like even after her, like she learned her lesson, she just immediately unlearned it.
Well, it's kind of a bleak ending in
Yeah.
that way, because you see how the media picks up the story and kind of churns it for engagement and farms it for as much
Kurt-
engagement
well,
as
it's-
possible.
Kurt becomes a meme.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the bleakest ending because it starts out on like New York Times and stuff, because they do like there's like a New York
like the New
Times
Yorker,
like sketch
yeah.
or New Yorker, sorry, yeah, like there's like a New Yorker sketch of
Jesse dropping the mic.
yeah, and then it slowly, you know, goes to HuffPo and then clickbait websites and then 4chan
4chan.
and like and you start seeing like the 4chan threads, and they're like, yo, let's turn this into a movie.
And all of like the memes they're making of Kurt
And,
from all the videos, and
it just
sharing.
your stomach just starts fucking mine at least was just like fucking turning, just like, oh god, this is what would happen,
and
isn't
seeing
it?
people who are like, who's
Not
gonna
only
be the
would
next
it
Kurt?
happen,
Yeah.
it has happened
Yes.
with people like Elliot Rodger.
Yep.
Like that, it literally happened with Reddit and 4chan in real life, and it's so stomach churning to see it, because much like the rest of the movie, a lot of those posts feel really authentic in a
Yeah.
really unsettling way. They feel like the products of their medium, and it just gives it an authenticity that makes you realize, oh, hey, this could and has very much happened.
Well, and I mean, Kurt got exactly what he wanted. He wasn't around to see it, but I don't think he ever really planned on surviving the night to begin with. And it's the same thing with like mass shooters, you know, who do it for the notoriety because they're nobodies. It fucking works because our culture idealizes
I thought it was
people.
so funny that they had like, I think it was like a Daily Beast article where it had
Don't say his name.
yeah, K asterisk RT,
Yeah.
K asterisk uncle.
Yeah.
And it's like why we don't say his name. And
Immediately
it's just,
followed by a list of other names.
In
we
a
don't
massive
say.
GIF of like, or GIF of like banner flashing his name.
yeah, and it's like, yeah, this is totally what happens too. Like even in the spin market, like it's just engagement farming at the end of the day. They don't really give a shit as long as they get the clicks. It's so spot on in its commentary with that stuff.
Absolutely. I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't at least briefly turn the mirror on us and acknowledge that we're doing a podcast.
Yeah, no, you probably should.
seeking engagement, wanting people to listen and stuff like that. So it's like just the acknowledgement. We got to make it meta. We got to make it self-reflexive, just so it doesn't seem like we're being hypocritical.
Yeah, well,
you
that's
know,
what this
we're-
episode is brought to you by. If there was ever a sponsor,
This episode is brought to you by self-reflection.
us still here 3 years later.
We are
Like and share, please.
like and share, like and subscribe.
We
Follow us
will
on
not
Twitter.
follow for follow.
Nope.
We will not. But you know, we are part of the culture and part of the problem. We are Patrick Bateman. We are all Kurt.
God, I hope not.
No, I don't think so.
Jesus.
I don't think that. I like to think that we're not all about chasing clout on this show, but
No.
you know. Anyway, is it time to rate this movie, boys?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ben, why don't you start since it was your pick?
Okay, well, this is my second viewing of this movie now, and I've just come to appreciate it even more. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. I think it's so brilliantly written, really fucking funny, and we get some just great performances from everyone involved. You wouldn't believe it, but this was also produced by Drake.
Executive produced by Drake. Yeah,
Yeah.
we should definitely mention that.
Bizarre.
Because, like, yeah, that seems really weird. He's like one of the biggest cloud chasers
Yeah.
there is. But anyway,
That's us. Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, this movie has such a great attention to detail. It's so sharply written. The soundtrack is really good and really funny in that, like, it mixes vaporwave with diegetic music made by Kurt, quote unquote.
yes.
Like SoundCloud, like cloud chasing,
Really
like electronica artists.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bad
Shit.
SoundCloud DJ
Yeah.
electronica, which is funny considering that his dad is also a DJ. You know,
The closing song is a James Ferrara song. I think that sums things up pretty perfectly on like the target audience for this movie. I think this is so brilliant as a movie, and the first time I watched it, I gave it a 4.5, but I think it's moving up to a 5 for me.
all right,
I have nothing bad to say about this movie.
Cleveland.
No, I've been torn this whole conversation between a 4.5 and a 5. I started out pretty confidently with a 4.5, but the more we talk about it, the more it really sinks in, like how fucking great of a film this was, and it's. I'd have no reason to not give it 5. Like that's for sure. It's at the very least a strong 4.5. But I think fuck it, why not? Like it deserves it. Like no, give it a 5. Give it a 5 from me.
Okay. Well, now I feel bad to be the one who keeps it from a perfect rating, but it's a really, really good movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but in some ways it was just lacking that last little bit of like oomph that for me would put it over into like perfect film territory. Maybe on rewatches, I think there's a lot more to this movie than meets the eye. So, maybe I'll change my opinion later, but I'm still gonna give it a really solid 4 out of 5. I think it's a really fun, interesting, and surprisingly thought-provoking film that is definitely worth watching, especially in this day and age and the climate that we live in.
Yeah, and I should mention this movie isn't on streaming yet, but it is available to rent online. So definitely support indie filmmakers. This movie is definitely very deserving of it.
For sure.
Yes.
That will give Spree an average of 4.7 out of 5 pods from The Boys. Next week, we have a special episode. I mean, every episode of our show is special.
True facts.
But since our Eraserhead episode a few weeks ago, or has it been a couple of months at this point?
It absolutely has.
I don't even know. COVID times,
Yeah.
man. Whenever that was, we sat down with Cleveland and watched through the original series of Twin Peaks. I remember at the end of the Eraserhead episode, we talked about how Cleve hadn't seen it and how you tried to watch it in high school and didn't like it. And we got you.
I will be talking about that on that episode.
Yes.
Stay tuned, folks.
We are going.
I got new opinions.
We are going to be talking about the prequel film, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, and we will have a couple of guests.
Oh, it's a
as
prequel?
well. It is a prequel.
I didn't know that.
But it does provide some context. It is best watched after the show,
cool.
which is why we didn't watch it first.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Anyway, we will talk about that next week. So if you are a David Lynch fan or a Twin Peaks fan,
Or not.
you're
an Us fan.
or an Us fan, and want
That's
to hear
us, the pod people, us. Or a Jordan Peele fan.
or the Jordan Peele fan,
whichever.
whatever. Then tune back in next week for that, because it's going to be a lot of talk about how great Twin Peaks is. And I think we already kind of did the sponsor, so we'll just wrap up with our fucking clout chasing plugs,
This
right?
clout shit funny.
This
yo.
clout shit funny, yo. If you like this show and want to give us more clout and boost our own egos, then hit the 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, like and subscribe, baby. You can also check out our Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/podpeoplepod, where you'll find a list of all the films we've talked about on the show with our average ratings and links to those episodes. Follow us on Twitter at PodPeoplePod. Our follower count is low. It's pathetic. It's Kurt-like. We need to get the higher numbers. We're trying to be DJ Uno up in this bitch.
Yeah, we're not trying to be Kurt, though. You don't have to worry about that from us.
Yeah, well, if you
Not yet.
follow us on Twitter, we will come to your house and kill you. That's how it works. So
That's actually why we have so few followers.
that's it. You can follow me on Twitter at Deep State Aussie.
I'm on Twitter at Mr. Sheet.
And I'm occasionally tweeting for Light Arc Studios. We have further progress on It Stares Back. Stay tuned, folks. Coming up soon. Coming up on All Hallows Eve. Well, just keep your eyes out. Keep your eyes peeled. I know Dread XP is going to be doing a Halloween showcase. And if you're interested in It Stares Back related things, you should watch it. No reason why. Just you should watch.
Just reasons.
Just reasons. And you can also follow my work on ArtStation.
That.
Just search Cleveland Mosier, and you'll see all my cool, dark and terrifying, and then some fun and not dark and terrifying paintings that I do. I do art. That's me. And that's it. That's all. Bye-bye.
Well, no reason to drag this out any longer.
Nope.
It definitely feels weird dropping plugs after talking about this movie.
It really does.
So I'll just say come back next week for Twin Peaks. And until next time, stay off the internet, kids. Seriously.
Yeah, it's a cesspool.